Hi, this is Will Lockwood, Senior Editor at Pharmacy Technology and Management Review, and I'd like to welcome you to this PTM Review podcast. In today's episode, we'll talk about what makes pharmacies indispensable partners to senior living communities. Joining me today are Doris Page, who is VP of Customer Care and Compliance at Pharm Care USA, and Murray Mercier, who is Solution Architecture Director at Point Click Care. We're going to explore how leading pharmacies are becoming embedded partners in the senior living communities they serve, from aligning with wellness teams to reducing delays in care. We will uncover what it takes to stand out in a market that expects more and rewards those who deliver. We're going to learn how Pharm Care USA is using Point Click Care's Pharmacy Connect to strengthen collaboration and become an indispensable partner to the senior living communities they serve. Let's start out by having you introduce yourselves, if you would. Doris and Murray. Doris, would you like to go first?
Sure, thank you. My name's Doris. As you mentioned, I have been a nurse for over 30 years in the senior care environment. I have been working in long-term care now since 2003 and have seen a lot of changes, and I'm excited to see the changes coming forward.
Thank you. Murray?
Awesome. And thanks for having us, Will. My name is Murray Mercier. Like you said, I've been in the senior living or around the senior living for the last 25 years. I would say that I have a mild obsession with creating communities that are desirable both to live in and work in, and really desegregating the elder population so that they can continue to experience life, enjoy life, and live to the fullest up until the very end. So we're very excited to be here today. Thanks for having us.
Doris, Murray, thank you for those introductions. Welcome. Let's start by digging into how the LTC pharmacy market landscape has been changing over the past couple of years. Who'd like to start?
I will go ahead and take this one. Long-term care pharmacy has changed dramatically over the last 10 years. Technology has become really the most important thing. We have to work smarter and not harder. We have to deliver care in a more streamlined, efficient way. And you can't do that the old manual paper way. It's just not possible anymore. So that has changed tremendously over, I would say, the last 15 years. We're seeing a huge change in the patients we care for. When I started out 20 plus years ago, the AL patients were really independent patients. Now I'm seeing them more like a long-term care with a higher acuity, increased medications, increased behavioral because of the memory care and all of the focus with that. So it's changed dramatically. It's not where I started 20 years ago for sure.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Doris. It's actually been really exciting to watch our industries grow almost hand in hand with one another. Going back to my start in the community almost 20 years ago, the pharmacy was such a crucial part. And there's such a focus on senior living participating in more valuable care initiatives and really taking on that healthcare coordination agency for the resident. And it's been exciting with pharmacies and senior living communities being in such a long handshake of business partnership for so long. That's the first thing that we're looking to expand our capabilities with together, both driving more pharmacy utilization. I remember when I first started, we were looking at 40% adoption of our long-term care pharmacy. And by the time I left to come over to Point Click Care in 2014, we were at 100% long-term care pharmacy adoption. So it's been an exciting time to be in partnership together.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there have been some real changes in the landscape over the last 10 years, some real pressures, some very recent pressures with the Inflation Reduction Act. Labor shortages are something people talk about all the time in pharmacy these days. So these are some real challenges in the pharmacy market, and it's natural for a market like that to evolve. Murray, how have senior living communities' expectations of pharmacy partners changed?
Yeah,
What services, what technology are they looking for now, and what value are they looking for now from their pharmacy partners?
Doris, I think you hit on this very strong point that the acuity landscape has certainly shifted in our environments. And look, the reality is nobody wants to live in an institution. And so it is the right thing to continue to grow our acuity management capabilities in a home and community-based services environment, of which senior living is very much a part. Now, in order to drive institutional healthcare in the home, you need a lot of logistical understanding and safety protocol. And the pharmacy is number one in that, right? Besides labor and staffing, I would say that medication management is one of the most laborious and costly components of managing a senior living community. But the reality is when you are working dedicated with a single long-term care pharmacy and you're using the same pharmacists and licensed healthcare people, you're going to have better outcomes for your residents, for the community. We're going to grow our reputation. We're going to do the things that are right for the residents themselves. But that takes a degree of effort. And I'm curious, Doris, how you think about that. Staying constantly connected with your pharmacist seems to be a very important thing when you're trying to operate a senior living community these days. But what's your perspective there?
Absolutely, you have to stay connected. Regulations haven't changed a lot over the years, but I really do foresee that becoming a big topic, and you are going to see increased regulations. Right now, medication management is one of the big things that is currently being regulated the most. They are scrutinized heavily if they don't have that medication available. But there are so many complexities in making sure that medication is there. We have to work very closely and communicate very well to ensure that, number one, the med is there when it should be there, but also for them to understand, what if we can't do it? What if the insurance is requiring a prior auth? What if there's a national back order on the medication and it's not available? So the communication and using that technology, because let's be honest, you cannot pick up the phone and talk to somebody every time there's a challenge in getting a medication. So we have to rely on technology for that. IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, that is putting a huge pressure on long-term care pharmacies. PBM reform, I could talk about for the next 6 hours in what those challenges are providing to us. So we as the pharmacy, we have to do better for our facilities to ensure their success, but we also have to overcome the challenges that are being thrown at us. And how are we going to continue doing both?
I really appreciate that, Doris. Just to tag on to that, value-based care demands real-time service coordination capabilities. And that's never more true than when you're talking about the medication management side of things. I'm curious to your point, though, about pharmacies needing to care about getting more ingrained in, but for this example, senior living operations. What's the value proposition for a pharmacy to spend the time to work more closely with these home and community-based services like senior living? I'm curious what your perspective is there.
If I'm going to start a facility with me, I'm committing to take care of every resident in there. I want to take care of every resident in there. With the challenges we have with decreased reimbursement and increased PBM management and making it more difficult to get the meds out, I need to have 100% of all those patients to make it a go. So how am I going to do that? I can't just go, pretty please give me all your residents. I have to prove myself. I have to prove that I'm reliable, accountable, and resilient. And am I agile? Do I move quickly for that facility? Not every facility needs the same services. So am I able to adjust my service to meet the needs of that facility? Because we've got some incredible facilities that out there that are doing incredible things. I need to be able to adjust, not them say, yeah, I'm your pharmacy, you're doing it this way. So I can only do that with partners like yourself and, the technology that I'm seeing out there.
Really sounding like a matter of being collaborative rather than bringing a defined set of services and saying, here's what we do. It's saying, how do we work together? And obviously the technology is a huge part of it.
Absolutely. If we're not working together to ensure the success of the communities, we're not going to survive. We can't all do it on our own as we used to do historically. We stayed in our own little silos, but we can't do that anymore. It's much bigger.
So, Murray, I think this one is for you, but Doris, you can jump in if you want. What happens next? What do you believe the role is that senior living communities are looking for from pharmacies in the future? So how's this going to evolve?
Yeah, it's a good question to follow up on what Doris just said about the importance of collaboration. There's a lot to do in order to evolve. So it is so important for the entire interdisciplinary team to be at the table when we're coordinating high acuity residents and trying to keep them in a home environment. And that just puts a lot of stress on the demand for real-time communication. So what happens next from a technology perspective. We need to understand that orders, particularly in a home environment like senior living, are coming from all over the place. It's not a doctor in a hospital or a medical director in a skilled nursing that's just writing all the orders and in full control. So how do we coordinate when those orders are coming from everywhere? And the fact that senior living isn't a 24/7 hospital, that's part of our value. We don't feel like a hospital. It's not all about surplus safety, but there is also a demand for safety, and medications being such a big part of it. So how do we continue to become more efficient and more safe and have the ability to recognize risk faster? While the technology needs to be better, the pharmacies and the communities need to figure out new ways of communicating with one another. And we just got to get tighter in general, I guess I would say. But I'm curious, Doris, how you might answer that question, or if you think I missed anything there.
No, I don't think you missed anything. I'll just add on it. The future of senior living and pharmacy coordination. It's an interesting dilemma, or however you want to describe it right now, in that the senior livings need to have the pharmacy. That's evident. Everybody knows that. They're going to have increased regulations, which will probably tighten it down and make them pick one pharmacy, as you mentioned earlier, instead of trying to manage 4 different retail pharmacies, trying to take care of different residents. So all of those things are going to come to a head here soon. But here's the challenge that we're seeing on the long-term care side even more so, is with the IRA and with the PBMs, how are we going to continue being that really great partner? Because regulatory wise, our communities are going to require us, but how are we going to continue doing it if we're not getting reimbursed? Pharmacies are closing down left and right because of the current reimbursement environment. So that's our biggest challenge, is how are we going to continue being that best possible partner, seeing the need for increased guidance from our pharmacists at the facility level to provide those positive outcomes for those patients. So the only way I'm going to be able to say is continued support and collaboration with companies like yourself through Pharmacy Connect, the senior living, because we are really able to guide them so much closer with their medications. 20 years ago, a caregiver could input a medication. It's not spelled right. The dosage isn't a thing. So now, the pharmacists are really participating so much more than we've ever done before. And that's going to improve patient outcomes. It's going to help with patient safety. It's the only way it's going to work moving forward.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think just like in most professional settings, we're all being asked to do more with less, which means we've got to get more efficient, which means we've got to get people together more closely together virtually or through systems. And it's great that AI is coming along right at this time, because it should help us more rapidly develop layover technology solutions that allow people to get more information out of data. Traditionally, systems are very good at presenting data, but is the insight there? Is the information to do the next thing there? Is there a degree of prioritization to it? Until Pharmacy Connect came along, all order integration platforms were the same. Whether you were long-term care, post-acute, senior living, it was all one platform. But these aren't the same environments. They don't have the same people. They don't have the same amount of time. They're not doing the same thing exactly. So it really just made sense to start going down this path of building an order integration platform between all the pharmacy systems and point click care in this case with Pharmacy Connect. And I appreciated that my organization made that investment.
Yeah, and talking about making that investment, it's so critical. Pharmacies need to be able to make that investment in a technology like this to counterbalance these financial issues that, as Doris, you mentioned, with IRA and PBM pressures. Pharmacy is continually having the resources that it can apply to patient care and to the role it plays with patients reduced. So how do you balance that? How do you counteract that? And it's important to make the investments.
Yeah,
Spot on.
absolutely.
Okay, let's move on. Doris, from an operating pharmacy perspective, how is Pharm Care USA looking to differentiate itself with its services, with its support for senior living communities? I think you've been touching on this in a number of ways over the course of the conversation, but what is it that helps your team retain senior living customers over time?
Sure. And I get asked this every sales meeting. What makes you different? And I'm very confident in saying service. And when I say service, I don't just mean we get the meds to you. We all sell the same meds. We all dispense the same med. But what I mean is true service. Are we answering the phone quickly? Are we resolving issues quickly? I don't mean next week. I need it resolved by the next dose. Those kind of things. So we work very hard at Farm Care USA to ensure that our customers feel like, not even feel it, but truly believe that we care, because we do. We're pharmacists and nurses that came into this industry to take care of the patient. Yes, there's going to be stumbling blocks. Yes, there's going to be issues, but how do you take care of the issues? I think that's the most important piece that sets us apart. And it's something that I'm very proud of, Farm Care, because we do take care of the patient ultimately, but we take care of the caregivers. We take care of the nurses. We answer their calls. And if they don't, they know they can get another person right away. It's service, and I call it value service because it's invaluable. It's invaluable when you have a family member upset that someone's in pain, but you can't get a hold of your pharmacist. They can get a hold of someone at Farm Care. Even I get calls at midnight. The answering service is taking too long. Okay, let me get a hold of someone for you. That's invaluable service because that's important to that patient.
Doris, I appreciate how much accountability you're taking in the experience of the community. Not all pharmacy experiences, in my experience, necessarily take that view. I would offer that it's a two-way street, though. All too often, I might walk into a senior living community where they're having pharmacy and medication management challenges, but there's zero relationship. Maybe the community's treating you like a vendor and not a partner. And so to get to that next level, I think we really need to sit down hand in hand and look at the problems and say, how can we collectively and in collaboration work through this and really care about each other's business goals? I have to imagine that when your organization makes a community over the top happy in the partnership, or engaged in the partnership, rather, I should say, that inherently is going to grow your business by reputation. Is that a fair call out?
Building relationships with our customers is priority. People want to work with people that they trust and like. And if we don't take the time to spend time with them so they do feel like they have a relationship and they can call, and maybe just it's a simple question and they don't want to bother us, but when they feel like they can do that, then that just is, I mean, we've grown incredibly at Farm Care USA since I've been with them. And I truly believe it is because of our relationship building. I have customers that are been my customers for 20 years. I go to their kids' weddings. I've met their grandchildren. It's a relationship. They're not a customer. They're my friends. They're part of my Farm Care family.
Yeah, the family. And it's really funny. People are like, I don't understand. How do you operate a senior living community? It's like highest level of performance opportunity. And it's the same thing as running a home. If you can figure out what it means to have a strong, healthy, engaged home, it's the same thing in our environment. Doris, I'm curious though, what stops a pharmacy from taking those steps that you took and getting more ingrained in their partnership with the community? Are there kind of key things that stops it from happening?
I think it's culture within the company. I've worked for bigger organizations where I didn't feel part of the family per se. And I think that's what stops as you grow and grow. And there's so many levels of management, you lose that personal touch at some point. And even though we've grown a lot, we've worked very hard as the executive team to not lose that personal touch. I want to know everyone on my team. Our CEO, he personally, he doesn't interview, he checks with as many oncoming pharmacists as he can. And we have 25 locations serving 20 states. That's a feat in itself. But he doesn't want to lose that connectivity with his team. And I think that's what sets us apart, in that we work probably harder to stay connected with our team and customers than maybe other pharmacies do.
I like how we're using this word connection in different contexts. We're talking about connecting and integrating technology, pharmacy dispensing system, med management system and having those things connected technologically, but that's really in service of and the foundation for these human connections. And that's, I think, Murray talking about creating a strong home, a strong community. That's how you build those connections. That's terrific. And Doris, I think Murray's question spoke to this and you answered it in large part, but for pharmacies out there, if you're going to give some advice to a colleague and they're going to say, how do we grow over the next year, over the next 3 to 5 years? How do we scale successfully? You have the experience with that at Farm Care USA. What's your advice to them?
Let's be realistic. It's harder than it's ever been, but we've got to embrace technology. AI scares me to death just because I have very little understanding of it. I'm a simple nurse. It scares me, but we have to embrace it. We have to embrace all the new technologies. And to mitigate the increase in the operating costs and the decrease in the reimbursement that we're seeing in long-term care pharmacy, if we're not embracing that technology and investing into that technology, you're not going to succeed. It's just going to be impossible. So my advice to anybody wanting to start a long-term care pharmacy or grow theirs to a different scale than they currently are is definitely, I said it earlier, you've got to work smarter than harder, but you've also got to work very hard to maintain the relationships and those connections at the same time. Don't just turn it all over to technology. You still have to have the human connection.
I appreciate that, Doris. I think to tack on, in order for us to keep up, we have to achieve real-time capabilities in both of our businesses. We can't wait for the med reconciliation. There's just too much risk happening there. We can't wait. But how do you get to real time? You have to reduce the mundane. And you got to, so that you can focus on the value add. And if it makes you feel any better, Doris, I really think that's where AI needs to focus in our business is reducing the mundane, not making complex decisions, not replacing human interaction. It should actually be doing more of the things that don't need our attention so we can focus on those value add activities. The technology needs to evolve. We need to evolve as businesses. We need to come closer together. We need to understand each other's risks and goals and probably have coordinated business partnership plans year over year. I think that might be a good step for communities and pharmacies to take in the future. But we got a lot to do, and I'm really excited to move forward and doing that work with you, Doris.
Yes, I am excited as well. And it is going to be growing, as we all know. It's not going anywhere. It's only going to grow. So we've got to grow with it. And again, being partners with Point Click Care, Pharmacy Connect, partnering with my communities, that's the only way we're going to really ensure all of us succeed, coming together.
You're here.
Right. That incredible value of partnerships, of collaboration, of understanding the needs of your partners and who you're collaborating with. I think that's an extremely valuable lesson for what it takes for pharmacies to become indispensable for these communities and to be indispensable in the way that they should be for these communities of seniors. Great. Doris, Murray, I appreciate your time today. I learned a lot and I want to thank you and we'll hopefully have a chance to talk again soon.
Thanks, Phil.
Wonderful. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Doris.